Greetings and welcome to the first episode of Viewers of the Void. I am your disembodied host, Origin, and here on my channel we would like to discuss a wide landscape of concepts that exist within the void. From manga to anime, from cartoons to comic books, to even video games, and how these concepts can affect us in our real world life. Let's begin. Wu Chen-yin, a 15th century novelist responsible for giving us one of the most popular stories out of the Chinese mythos. I am of course speaking of Journey to the West. For the sake of this video, we'll be focusing on the last part of the war in the heavens between Sun Wukong and the gods. After thoroughly mopping the floor with literally every god in heaven, the Jade Emperor requested the audience of the Buddha to see if he could find some way to stop Sun Wukong from taking over the heaven completely. Instead of fighting Sun Wukong, the Buddha came up with a bet to offer the Monkey King. He told him that if he could leave his palm, then every god in heaven will recognize him as the emperor of all the heavens. Sun Wukong, as prideful as he is, of course accepted the bet and jumped onto the Buddha's palm. He then summoned his cloud and flew from the Buddha's palm past the surface of the planet, out into space, past every star, galaxy, nebula, all the way into the edge of existence itself, where he saw 5 ivory pillars. On one of these pillars, he took a paintbrush and wrote, "Sun Wukong was here." He then hopped back on his cloud and flew back to the palm of the Buddha. Of course, he was bragging about how unmatched his speed, his power, his durability, how unmatched all of this was by anyone basically to ever exist. The Buddha answered this by simply raising his fingers, and the same markings that you saw on the pillar that Sun Wukong had just made were also on one of the Buddha's fingers. And the Buddha implied that Sun Wukong never even left his palm. Let's take a look at that. We're saying that the Buddha, who is basically one with the cosmos, held all of existence in the palm of his hand. Who does that sound like? What does that sound like? For most people, someone who could do something so astronomically insane would be considered God. And in this video, we are going to talk about the hand of God in the DC universe. Let's begin. When you picture the beginning of all things, what do you see? A big bang of infinite energy? A spoken word that gave life to nothingness? Maybe an unseen hand that carefully crafted all of existence as we know it? If you answer yes to any of these options, you are absolutely correct. Sit back, relax, and I will explain to you just how right you really are. This is literally the hand that started it all in the DC universe. From its palm, birthed an infinite multiverse complete with infinite universes, pocket dimensions, parallel timelines, hypertimes, etc. The list goes on forever. But whose hand is it? Well, to answer that, we'll need to go back, all the way back to the beginning of time itself. 1965. In this Green Lantern story was the first appearance and mention of the hand of God. But again, whose hand is it? The question of this topic has plagued comic book readers for decades. But now we finally got our answer. Or should I say, answers. The fabled hand of God has either been hinted at or shown to be one of these 3 immensely powerful beings. The presence, the Abrahamic god of the DC universe. Perpetua, the mother of the first multiverse. And the Anti-Monitor, continuity destroyer, and likely the youngest son of Perpetua. These three beings are some of the most powerful, feared, and mysterious of all of DC. Their roles differ to some extent, but each has been shown to be the mysterious hand. What does this mean? We don't really know exactly. The weird thing is that no matter which of these three held the position, it always meant the same thing. The hand itself was meant to be a symbol of creation and destruction. All creation in the palm of an almighty being. However, in the years that followed, it began to represent something a lot more ominous. The presence. The supreme deity of all DC. Or at least one of them. I say one of them because his relationship with the other forces out there has kind of thrown his supremacy into question. For decades, the presence has been stated to be the creator of all things, and we all know the story of it. He created Michael, Lucifer, and Gabriel, and ordered them to shape, create, and give order to his new idea, his new creation, the multiverse. We even see that in one story, the presence was looking for a replacement for DC's head honcho. He held the entirety of all creation in the palm of his hand as a ball. During the same story, he even stated that he was debating on whether or not he should save creation or destroy it. Something that would have been as simply easy as closing the palm of his hand. The Anti-Monitor, the harbinger of infinite deaths. In an attempt to recreate all reality in his image, Mobius had traveled back in time to the beginning of it all, to the hand that supposedly started it all. He had ended up replacing his hand we all saw at the beginning of the multiverse. He was going to crush it in his mighty grip, had it not been for the Spectre, who appeared to have a cosmic showdown with him. This tells us that we can actually remove Mobius from this list, as the hand of God had already existed before his. But the question is, why would the arguably omnipotent deity of DC relinquish his power like that? Enter Perpetua, the mother of the first multiverse. By first multiverse, I am not referring to the pre-crisis multiverse, but the multiverse that preceded even it. For the sake of this video, we will dub this multiverse as the Apex multiverse. This is where a few things begin to come together. Perpetua is part of a nigh omnipotent race of outer gods called the Hands. In short, the Hands are beings tasked by the presence or the source to go throughout the omnivoid, the overvoid, expanding the greater omniverse, seeding it with multiverses that are supposed to reach a certain enlightenment that allows them to ascend higher. Her task was to create a multiverse, put it on its path, then essentially return to the source, seemingly to die. However, she wanted to live and decided to twist her Apex multiverse into a weapon that could be used to potentially destroy her judges before they could destroy her and her creation. Instead, she was sealed away behind the source wall and forced to watch a multiverse that would be the exact opposite of what she strived for. On multiple occasions, DC tells us that the hand in the beginning of time was indeed Perpetua's, and that her power is what was used to create the various iterations of the multiverses that we've seen throughout DC's publication. The presence and the source, like most comic book readers have probably figured out by now, are essentially the same thing, and from them came Perpetua and the hands. She and her kind are like to the source what Michael and Lucifer are to Yahweh, the presence. Immensely powerful cosmic beings given an objective by an infinitely higher power. The presence may be the omnipotent creator of all things in the DC Omniverse, but the hand that we see isn't his. And it makes sense that it would have been Perpetual's hand. Why? Let's go back to the conclusion of Crisis on Infinite Earths. The Anti-Monitor was attempting to recreate all reality by destroying what was. The multiverse that was built in spite of his mother. When he went back in time to the beginning of all things, well, before the beginning of all things, the space where the hand of creation was supposed to be was vacant. But why? Time wouldn't have existed before the hand, as it is essentially just the void. So where was Perpetua? She was in the source wall, subtly manipulating her son Mobius to destroy all the things his brothers had fought so hard to create. But what he did happened before all of that. So how could it be Perpetua's hand when she was in the source wall manipulating him with her whispers? The multiverse has had many iterations, but one cohesive timeline. A multiversal timeline on which all things are canon, despite the many alterations to the multiverse, even if it was destroyed. Perpetua started all of this. She's the only answer. The presence is the god of the DC Omniverse. Perpetua is one of his fashioners of realities. Anti-Monitor, while an immensely powerful cosmic being in his own right, was just a pawn in the grand scheme of his mother to finally be free of the prison her sons left her in. So, in conclusion, Perpetua's hand is what we always saw in the beginning of all things. We know this not only because they stated it in the Death Metal series or in the Justice League totality, but like she was the builder of the first multiverse. And everything after that, from her mindset, is a perversion of what her multiverse was supposed to be. An evil thing, tasked with killing beings of omnipotent power. What do you think about how our universe was created? Do you think that if we look all the way back to the beginning of time, what do you think we would see? The Big Bang? Will we hear a voice? Or will we see a hand slowly closing as it grips across our realities until nothing is really left? Hi, Origin here. I appreciate you guys looking at my video. Please be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed my content. It was my first video, so I tried not to do anything that was too complicated. I want to keep it somewhat simple. And also in the comment section, let me know what you guys think about the video, and if you believe that we have some kind of unseen hand that crafted our existence and is probably somewhere waiting to end it. But just remember, all of us are equal within the void. See you guys later.